Hello all and welcome to Jim's Retro Stuff. Today on the channel I want to take a look at something that I purchased online. I watch a lot of retro computing and video game YouTube channels, and one of them in particular is Joe's Computer Museum. In addition to having the YouTube page and doing some live streaming, Joe also has a store where you can purchase things for your retro computers. He also has some fun things on there, and that's what I got in this package. So we're going to open it up and take a look at it and put it together because it's a project. So let's go to the bench and check it out. So here's the package that I received in my mailbox. It originally was encased in this plastic bag that is, I guess, used whenever something gets damaged in shipping. So I'd already opened this ahead of time. This isn't an actual unboxing, because I had already cut it open to check and verify that the contents was fine and the item was fine inside. So what did I get from Joe's Computer Museum? Well, he has a item called an LED Brite. So if you think back to the old days, if any of you remember the light brights where you put the little colored pegs in the holes and there's like a light bulb in the back and it lights up and has a design. Well, he sells an LED Brite, which is a 16 by 16 grid of LEDs on a circuit board, and you can set up whatever kind of pattern you want, and it's powered by a USB. So that's what I bought, is an LED Brite kit to put together. So the contents are, this is the actual LED Brite board itself, and it has a USB connection that's taped on there. And it just takes a, I think I'm not sure if that's a USB B, what style is it? Looks like one I have for like a printer that I had in the past. So you get that board, and there's also some legs to stand it on. And this is actually connected, I believe, originally. When you first get it, it's connected together, and I think that's what they thought was broken, possibly. Maybe they thought the thing was destroyed. So you got those two items. Then also you get a bunch of little envelopes, and you get a sticker from Joe. 8 bits are all you need. That's Joe's motto over at Joe's Computer Museum, and that's pretty cool. And I got that. So we got colored LEDs. So we got orange, we got yellow, we got green, we got blue, violet, red, and then we have two types of resistors, because depending on the color of the LED, you're going to need a different resistor value to go along with it. So what happens is, in this board, you're going to place a resistor in one of these holes, and then there's going a resistor in one of these holes, and then the LED is going to go in this area right here. So you have a corresponding resistor and LED for each position. So what you do is you basically can buy a design. Joe sells a few different, pre-made designs, so he has all the things figured out for you, all the LEDs and such. Or you can do your own design if you want. There's a grid you can print out, and then you can, I guess, get it to Joe, and he'll give you the LEDs that you need to make the design you want. So I chose a pre-made design. So let's take a look what else is in here. The last thing in here would be the assembly instructions. And you get a page in here from Joe. Here's Joe. He's thanking me for my purchase. And there's some safety notes and precautions on this page. And on this page, this gives you the kind of the overview of what you're going to need. These are all the tools that are needed. It's going to be soldering involved and cutting ends of the resistors and the LEDs off and such. And let's see, you're going to need the LED Brite board, which we have already. Then here's the LED kits, which I did get one of those. There's a power kit, which I did not get. He offers to sell a USB adapter. Oh, it's a USB A to B cable, and a power adapter you're going to need. And there's also a fashion case. So when you finish this project, you can actually put it in a case, like they do a 3D printed case, and it'll stand up and it looks kind of nice. So here's all your assembly instructions. So here's a little better view of things, how it works there. So what happens is, so you have an LED that goes in a certain hole, and then this is the matching resistor to go along with it. And let's see, so yeah, you always have to have the resistor goes to the lower left of the LED that you're installing. So there's that page, and this is instructions for the fashion case. And here's Joe's contact information if you're interested in getting a hold of him and purchasing any of his items. It's all right there. And here is the specific board assembly. So it shows you that the white, if you have, I guess, clear, pink, blue, green LEDs, use the 2200 ohm resistors with the red bands, and then red, orange, and yellow LEDs use the 560 ohm resistors with green, blue, and brown bands. So what design I chose is Atari, the Atari symbol. Growing up, I had Atari computers as a kid, and I've always had an Atari VCS, and I've always just really loved the Atari brand, so that's what I went with. So I guess the next step would be we're going to get everything laid out and ready to go, and we'll start putting this thing together. All right, it's time to start installing the LEDs into the LED Brite. We're going to follow this pattern for the Atari symbol. We're starting off with the red LEDs, and those are going to use the 560 ohm resistor. So we have 8 of those. We're going to need 2, 4, 6, 8 LEDs red, which I have. A few things you're going to want to remember is that LEDs are polarized, but the diodes are not. So the LEDs have a longer leg on the positive side, as you can see right there. See that longer leg is the positive side, and the positive is going to go to the left. In Joe's instructions, he actually mentions that your LEDs, to help remember the orientation, use the L rule. The long LED leg goes to the left, so that means the positive is going to go to the left. That's looking from the top of the board. Second thing, resistors are not polarized, and they're going to be located down and to the left of the LED that they go with. So we're going to go ahead and install the LEDs. I'm going to follow the grid. It starts at 0, 0, and the first LED is going to go down in row 1 and in position 5, but we're starting with 0. So we're going to go 0, 1, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we make sure the long leg is to the left, and we insert them. And you can actually reach from the back there and kind of move the one leg so that it wants to stay in the board so it doesn't fall out. See, that makes it a lot easier. So then we're going to take the next one, and we skip one space, and we're going to go over, and that one goes in there. We also want to make sure the long leg's to the left on that one. Once again, you can spread that a little bit just so you don't want the LEDs to fall out. Make it easier for soldering. Then the next one goes right next door. So then we're going to have right there. And we're going to skip a spot, and we're going to go right here. So you can see it's just like putting stuff in a light bright, like when you were a kid. All right, so here we have the board flipped over. We have the first 4 LEDs in place. I removed the resistor. It seems it's going to be easier. There's a lot of wires if you have everything in there at once. So we're going to basically do one row at a time. I'm going to do the LED, solder them in, and then put the resistors in and solder those in. So let's go ahead and do the first row. Looks pretty good. So now we will go ahead and clip these off and put the resistors in. All right, so now we have all the resistors for these 4 LEDs. They are located down and to the left, and we'll go ahead and flip this over. And we'll go ahead and solder them into place. So now we have all the LEDs installed, and the last row needs soldered in. The best way to do this is to insert them through the board and then fold the legs over to the sides to help keep them in place while they're being soldered. Now that we have them all soldered in, we'll go ahead and clip off the leads. We have all of the lights and the resistors in place. So usually what I do after each row is I spray down the board with isopropyl, and we do a little bit of cleaning to try to get some of that flux off. I'm going to give it a really good clean after it's all said and done, but that should be good for now. So the final thing we're going to need to do before we test it is install the USB power port onto the board and solder it in. And now we'll go ahead and solder it in. And there you go. Power port is installed. We'll go ahead and give it a little spray off. Now let's go ahead and test it out. So now we have the USB power plugged in, and we're going to turn it on and see how it looks. And there you go. It's all lit up. It's a nice, cool rainbow Atari logo. Now I'd like to give you a little information about putting the kit together from my experiences. All right, so this kit was definitely a fun little kit to put together. It was pretty easy. Not a lot of complicated things to be done. Go ahead and power it on so you can take a look at it while I'm doing this. It was just basically an LED grid with some resistors, and you put the right LEDs in the right hole and have a matching resistor, and it lights up. It's kind of like a LED Brite, but it's permanent. It's not something that you take apart unless you want to desolder the lights. But a few things I came across while putting this together, I can relay that may make it easier for others, is when you're putting the resistors and the LEDs in, what I found would be best would be to put a row of LEDs in, then solder one leg of each LED, then hold my finger on the LED while I heated up the solder, and then made sure that the LED would be flush to the board. And I would do that with each LED in the row, and then I would go and solder the other leg. And that made them stay nice and flush. And I would do a row of LEDs, and then I would do the matching resistors for that row. And those, you can just push them through and solder them. If they're not all the way in, you can heat up the solder and kind of like push on it, and it will make sure it seats all the way down, because the one leg is bent over, so the resistor touches the board, and then it's bent over and the leg goes through. So you want to keep that as flush as possible, especially if you're going to be using the case, because I think it's very important that everything is pretty low and to the board if you're going to use that the 3D printed case that's offered. Another thing that was stated in the instructions was to put this power port on first, basically. And I did not do that. What I did was I left it off because it was easier when I flipped it over for the board to stay stable and not rock around without that on there. What I would do when I wanted to test a row, I'd put a row in, then I'd just hold the power port in with my hand and then plug the cord in to check each row. And that was another thing I did, is I had soldered each row and then I tested it. I didn't have it loose in there. The instructions mentions putting the resistors through and testing them kind of before you lock it down. And that's a good idea, because I had a couple that were bad and I had to desolder them to remove them. And if I had not soldered them in, I could have just popped them out and popped a replacement in place. But those are a few of the things that I discovered while putting this kit together that may make it easier for, or easy for other people. This is definitely a good kit for a beginner. I mean, I'm by no means an expert at soldering. I do all right. My soldering joints aren't the greatest looking, but they're serviceable. But this is a really good exercise for soldering, because it's just it's two two parts, and it's very repetitive, and you can really work on your technique. Figure out how hot the gun needs to, your soldering station needs to be, and so on and so forth, and how the solder melts for you. I did most of these with around 340 degrees Celsius for my, putting the LEDs and the resistors in. I had to crank it up a little bit to do this power port because uh, these two, support pins that are mounted to the ground, they wick away a lot of the heat. So I needed to crank it up a little bit in order for it to, solder decently. So that's pretty much my experience with this kit. It was definitely a fun kit. I enjoyed putting this thing together. It's pretty awesome. If you guys are interested in something like this, you can go to jcm-1.com. That's Joe's Computer Museum's website. There's a store on there. You can order these boards. You can order LEDs. He has tons of other items available for sale too for retro computing. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy putting this together if you get one, and have a great day.